That sounds. Okay, I'm going to call to order the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting for October 6, 2025 at 4 p.m. Jennifer, will you be doing the roll call since Casey isn't here? Thank you.
Sorry, she didn't leave me notes for this one, but Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Puffberger,
Yes.
Mr. Barrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So first item on the agenda is to continue our review and recommendations of Chapter 103 that we were discussing at the last finance meeting. So we've had a few variations go back and forth. Alan sent out another one this morning. And then I think Jennifer and Matt had the opportunity to review that, to kind of get some notes together. I have reviewed the one that Alan sent this morning to get some notes, but we're gonna go through it kind of word by word what the changes are. So
Alan, did you send it to everybody?
I think so.
I don't even have it in my email.
Okay. If you don't, I got a copy.
I got a copy right here. Probably happens all the time.
Oh, is that what happens?
Is it this?
That one, too.
Thanks, Alan.
The smaller print one is the one that Matt and I went through.
Okay, so I think, we had left off at a certain page, but I feel like there have been some adjustments. So we're just going to start from the top. So based on the one I received this morning, going through on page 2, so 103.03 under contract provisions. 1C was the first place I see there being red copy. So,
And what I would indicate there, too, that whole section really is a format change, too.
oh,
So-
yes,
Reformatted it to make it clearer
okay,
between contract provisions, construction contracts, and then provisions that aren't allowed, just to try to make it clear to understand.
okay. So 1 essentially would be contract provisions, is what you're saying?
Correct. The one, provisions that items that it says shall right now, and I'm still looking at that as to whether it'd be the better language for that. It's not every contract's going to have all that in it, but
What is that under, I'm
The-
sorry?
one,
Under 1?
103.03.
Oh, yes, shall,
Shall, whether it should say may or, some other language that could be used there, but.
well, there's a
The-
big difference between may and shall, right? That's what I've learned over the past few
Right.
years.
That's what I'm trying to look at, yeah.
Okay,
But under C, we just added in, or Jennifer did, federal prevailing wage regulations would take precedent when there's prevailing wage issues that are applicable to contracts that we enter into for public improvements. So there's different prevailing wage requirements depending on what the type of contract is and the amount of the contract and the nature of the work.
so that'll just make sure we're complying with federal,
State and federal law, correct?
okay. Because we already mentioned state, so we're just adding in federal to go along with it.
Right.
Okay. And then, let's see, under number 2, construction contracts.
Yeah, it's just kind of cleaning up the language as to when there could be a bond requirement, depending on the nature of the work. So it just eliminated some duplicative language.
Okay, so getting rid of and shall require a bid guarantee for contracts in excess of 100,000.
Correct.
That if the bid is accepted, the contract shall be executed. Okay. And then number 3, B, or 3A, So at the end of the sentence, it's so a provision that requires the city to indemnify or hold harmless another person, the addition was or entity.
Correct, just to clarify that it involves, most of the time, we're not dealing with persons per se, and just to include any entity that we're dealing with
Okay.
is subject to these requirements. And the same falls under B that was
Okay.
added there.
So another person or entity.
Correct.
So I expect everyone to let me know if they have any questions, or I can just say, anyone? Okay. So, and
I'm looking
then,
at 3 versions of this. I'm just trying to keep
I
up
know.
how we changed.
I'm looking at Alan's, is kind of where I'm following right now.
Yeah. But I had notes made on the other previous.
Yes, okay. I know, I've got, I think, 5 different ones here, but, okay. So then number 3, or number 4 would be, I'm sorry, 5. We got a 5 in there too. So a contract that contains a term or condition described in this section shall be governed by and construed in accordance with, and we're adding Maumee ordinances, comma, the Maumee charter, or, that's the new addition, Maumee ordinances, the Maumee charter, or.
Right.
Then Ohio law, notwithstanding any term or condition to the contrary in the contract.
Correct.
Okay. So, everyone's good with that addition? Yep. And no extras needed for that, I don't think. So then 6 was crossed out. So that's removing, the section does not apply to a contract awarded as a sole source, as 1, a sole source, 2, as an emergency purchase, as described in Chapter 107, or as proved as an emergency by Maumee City Council. So I guess what's reasoning on that one?
It just didn't really fit within this section.
Okay, did it
Just
get
don't like-
moved into another section, or it just wasn't
No, right.
necessary to?
It wasn't necessary.
Okay. Still under contract. Jennifer, please help me if I'm not in a section, because I can't keep with the formatting changes, if you see anything, because I can't see what.
Okay, what section are you on right now?
So we're
Alan?
still on chapter 103.03. And we're on number 5, or 6. We just got rid of 6. So now we're going to
It says-
G.
It says G, but it really probably should be number 6.
I was going to say that was confusing to me, okay?
Is that
So
the one
makes more
is that
sense.
the one we are removing? 6?
6 was removed, the original 6, and the new 6 would be about the authorization of work on private property.
Yeah, so the new 6 is that paragraph in red.
Yeah, I see that.
It's labeled as G, so that is actually 6.
Alan,
Okay,
should
that's
this-
where I was getting confused.
Should this be made a policy or?
That was one of my suggestions, at least, that maybe it should just be a policy. It doesn't really, like I said, it's like a shall not provision, and whether that should just be in a policy, and what's the remedy if they don't? Does that make it a criminal act if they
Right.
don't do that properly, or, just some concerns that way? So my preference would be like a policy and for auditing reasons.
Okay, so my question to go along with that is, if it would become a policy, how do we keep track of the policies? Because, so I know I've heard kind of feedback in that it's easy to keep track of updates to items in our code, within, like, things for city staff, with all the above. When it's done at council, there's kind of like a paper trail, essentially. So, like, for our policies, do we have a set date that updates are made? So essentially, someone would know that, okay, for this policy, the updates are made in January. So then they could find the one for January and not have to worry about a potential update being made in May that they weren't aware of, or something like that. Like, how does it work? How do you keep track of whether you have the latest and greatest? Is it kept on the website? Like, that's my kind of concern. If it's not in something like this that went before council and was passed and put into our code, then how do we know what the latest is?
Well, there's a lot of things that we don't put in the code that you shouldn't do or can't do legally.
Okay,
So it's just trying to, what do we spell out, or what do we just put in a policy that is available to the employees, especially the ones that deal in this particular area.
So is that something that would be, say, in like the employee handbook? And that's something that gets updated just like each beginning of the year in January?
No, it'd be more in the purchasing type policy that we have.
Okay.
It would be in the purchasing policy, but in that purchasing policy, I refer to ordinances or the Ohio Revised Code.
So, and who keeps the purchasing, like when does that normally get updated?
I keep it.
Okay. So
Maybe
this would
most
be
of the-
something that would get added to a purchasing policy?
Some provision like that, I think. So, the main people that are going to be authorizing work, it's going to be service department, right? Public service director, mainly. Is there really anybody besides you, Matt?
Either myself or the capital projects manager, but either one, it would run through the public service department.
Okay.
Or
So-
a future
Or-
administrator.
Right, yeah,
Or,
future
yeah.
administrator,
Yeah.
right.
So is that something that, if it's been noted here and something we've talked about, if we think it should be a policy, we can get that added to the purchasing policy? How does that, is that something we could get added? Like this kind of like messaging to make sure, and then you could let us know. If you're recommending it to go in the policy, I guess I want to make sure that's also an action item, right? It gets, have
Has it
someone.
officially been passed that the purchasing policy can be modified at any time, Alan?
I didn't get a chance to look at that, but I think it can be modified administratively, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, as long as it's kept track of, because we've lost track of policies before. They've been modified and not communicated properly. That's my concern.
Well, so I guess that's another reason why I'm asking, like, who should be the one with the final kind of draft? So if any updates are made, we make sure that it's in the place it's supposed to be. I don't know, is that making any sense?
As far as the purchasing policy, I've got that, and I will maintain that. I would prefer it as an ordinance, though.
Okay. Well, so how would we address some of these concerns that Alan has if it was an ordinance? Like whether someone would need to be, there would need to be some sort of kind of quote unquote punishment. How did you word that, Alan?
Well, does it criminalize something if that happens, if it's in an ordinance, a shall not kind of thing, always connotates something criminal to me.
I think making the policy, as Jennifer said, she could track it. And that works. Does that work, Jennifer?
As long as I'm here, it'll be tracked properly.
Well, that'll be one of the duties of that person who holds that seat, and whatever that is,
Yeah.
whatever office that is. I don't know where in the order of how you do things in the finance department, that could be part of the purchasing agreement.
Well, I guess my question is, like, where does it then get housed that other staff can easily find it and check on it? Because, you wouldn't think they would have to say, hey, Jennifer, what's the latest? Can you give it to
Yeah,
me so I can look this up,
So I send them out as they're updated.
Okay.
The last update was a little while ago. But this would be something that would be in OpenGov as well.
Okay.
All of our financial policies.
Okay, so that is something that will be available on there okay. Does that have any sort of, does it send out any sort of alerts or anything? Does it have that option? I know you're just getting into it. It has a lot of, like, if you update something or that it can, like, people can sign up for alerts for things like that?
I haven't seen anything like that yet, but I can ask.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't have to do it. People could just automatically be notified if they want to know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's 6. Does that, it sounded like you were agreeable to
Yeah, the
that.
other-
Josh, are you agreeable to that? Okay. Matt, you seem to be, okay.
Yeah.
I would say Alan, you are. So 103.04, competitive bidding. So on item B, so when the cost of a contract that requires competitive bidding involving the furnishing of equipment, services, supplies, materials, or construction to the city is $75,000 or more, Advertisement and competitive bidding for such contract shall take place as recommended by the city administrator. So this, the change to this is the addition of comma, mayor, comma, capital projects manager, or public service director by any of the following methods.
And that was just something I put in for a suggestion. I don't know that it has to be all those people.
Okay,
But before, since we don't have a city administrator currently, you know, obviously it makes sense to have additional people have that ability to authorize contracts that are under that limit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think I had a note on something, because you and I talked on the phone the other day, and I was kind of asking about, you know, why we're listing so many people, if getting so many people listing was an issue. And I saw it in, hold on, I'm sorry, I'll look up.
Alan? Being that you added mayor, capital project manager, and the public service director, because we don't have an administrator, when we do have one, should it go to the city administrator first before any of these other people could do that?
Not necessarily. I mean, public service director ends up with a lot of the,
Right.
he was doing both, the administrator was doing dual role before.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what the public service director does involves, you know, improvements, road projects, you know, you name it.
Yeah. I mean, the competitive bidding process is mainly in the public service department.
Okay.
So I guess my question was, so I'd found, you know, in another ordinance, they mentioned is, instead of like listing a bunch of titles, because I know we've had like cleanups and updates to ordinances that where we've slightly changed like title names.
Right.
So they'd put, or designate in writing the director of any department in the mayor's stead.
Well, first, as to all those people, if you want to add them, or I think, Jennifer, did you suggest just directors or any director?
Yeah, I just
I mean,
listed it as directors.
Okay, so that kind of go alongs with, I guess, or designate in writing the director of any department in the mayor's stead, because I just don't want to, it's kind of like the ORC thing, if we don't have to go back and keep editing, because like a job description changes slightly, but they do kind of similar things. So how would that change then, Alan?
In B,
Yes,
would just be a city administrator or,
mayor or,
no, just city administrator or directors.
okay. So we wouldn't keep mayor in there? Because that was added too.
He generally wouldn't be involved in those, in
Okay.
in that process
Okay.
probably, so.
Okay, so everyone good with that? Administrator, directors, okay. Directors. Okay, so then in number 2, still under 103.04 competitive bidding, advertisement on the City of Maumee website. So the addition is social media or any other place that may be conducive for advertising the project. That's an addition. Then for addition, a minimum period of, which this we talked about the last meeting, everyone seemed agreeable with, minimum period of 2 weeks, but not more than 4 weeks. And it was mentioned that we wanted the not more than 4 weeks, so, which it sounds like it rarely happens, if ever, that we don't get it, but we can, essentially, it gets taken off and we put it up there, and then it kind of jumps up in the, like, the list of things. Is that, I mean, that's usually what happens in most places.
Right. I mean, that kind of follows along with the ORC.
Okay.
The whole time frame.
Okay. And then similar thing for number 3.
Well, under that same section, E, city administrator or public service or capital project manager, waive bidding irregularities and technicalities in a bid document. So I don't know, does the other Matt do much of that, or would it just be the public service director or administrator?
I think, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I work closely with the capital projects manager, so I guess we could just do public service director.
Okay.
You just wanted to jump to that because it was that same list of,
Oh, did I
Thanks.
skip over something there?
yeah, so that was, it was B we talked about with the list of things. And then number 2 under B was,
Oh, the advertising.
yeah, social media, any other place that be conducive. And then the minimum of 2 weeks, no more than 4 weeks. And then,
3 was the same thing for newspaper.
yes.
Correct.
And then, like you mentioned, E. So E was the addition of public service director, so we're not going to keep capital projects manager. That was also,
Correct.
okay. Can I get, like, in general, we need kind of, like, the public service to be on this as well, just because it's an addition, so I guess I want to ask why, just because you guys are in, like, the field and more apt to be aware, like, you know, for this one, why did we not have public service director before?
Because the administrator was
Right.
also acted
Oh,
as
that
a
makes
public
sense, okay.
dual role, so,
Okay, so we just had it under that.
right.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. And then 103.05, procedures and methods to be followed. So A,
I think we're going to do the administrator or directors for that.
okay. And, but then keep or mayor,
Right.
okay. Okay. It's A,
We just had some language to clean up to,
Right. That's
Right.
just
Have it read
clean
a
up
little bit
language,
better.
all right.
okay, so in the absence of the city administrator, the mayor is authorized to approve, execute, and enter into contracts, leases, licenses, and purchase agreements on behalf of the city.
yeah,
Okay.
so it reads better.
Okay. So then, did that cover, it's hard to jump around. Because we have listed again, city administrator, public service director, capital manager, law director, so we'll just change that to directors again? In A,
Correct. Anywhere it's,
anywhere,
just clean that up.
okay. Man, it's hard to keep track of these in A. So for the set amount forth in 103.04 of the Maumee codified ordinances, as many may be amended hereafter, whichever is greater, and after entering into said contracts and/or agreements, comma, so the addition of which are in excess of 25,000. So that's an addition. The city administrator, and then we'll do directors, including clerk, though, too. Right, we'll keep clerk in there.
Yeah, because we're just trying to figure out a format for
Right.
contracts that come through and just to make sure that council gets a copy of them in some format.
Yeah, and I
So the
think it's
clerk-
worth adding like the capital projects manager in that section right there, just because, you know, that role will deal with a lot of these contracts as well.
Because some of these contracts, they get executed, we don't really even know they say they were, or we don't always get them back right away, or
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry,
they're
can you
very
repeat that?
lengthy.
You're saying the capital projects manager should stay in there? Is that,
Right.
In that role, yeah.
oh, okay,
That's just a reporting role.
okay.
And we also wanted the language to say fully executed, 30 days.
Okay, and where is that? I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at both of these.
It's on that other copy I gave you. So
Right.
within 30 days of fully executed.
Well, Alan, does that,
Okay, that jumps to the bottom, okay. So that's after the 75,000, so,
Alan, that 30-day window, does that put a constraint on things if it's reporting it or filing it or register or reporting it, I guess, to council?
As long as it's 30 days after the full execution.
Right.
Is the limit. kind of thing. So, because some of them we don't get back right away, or it takes time, and, you know, we have all kinds of things that we sign, even like DocuSign. We have agreements, you know, settlement provisions. that
Yeah, well, I know
would
there's-
Technically be covered under this too, so.
Yeah, because when the contract's done and the job's done, it's not always done because something's held back because something's not been finalized or finished, like Redwood, for example.
Right.
I think
that's
this meeting
been-
is fully signed once we have a signed agreement.
Yeah.
The
Like-
terminology, you specifically wanted the terminology fully executed for that reason.
Correct, yeah. So when we award projects, and this is probably not in this scope as far as the value, but I just wanted it to kind of be clear. Like when we award projects and council approves it, then we then have to ship the contracts back to the contractor for them to sign. And then they have to send them back to us for us to fully execute them. And sometimes that can be days, sometimes that can be weeks. So that's why I think adding that 30 days after, like, receipt of the fully executed document.
Yeah, I just want
think makes
to
sense.
make sure you have enough time in all the departments,
Right,
so nobody's scrambling, is, oh, here comes the date, and
right,
this happened, or that wasn't done, or something forgot to get signed.
right.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the other question is the amount too. You know, it's 25,000. I just threw a number in there, or somebody did. I don't know where it came from. Maybe I suggested it, but is that too low, too high?
I don't have a problem with it. I think the reason we put a low number on there was because we started talking, you know, with the purchase of, you know, anything for the city that could,
The papers
Start
and
causing
everything, so
problems,
it's a
right?
result of that
Yeah.
conversation, yeah.
I
Remember,
think
we
that's where
started
that kind of came
Correct.
from.
Is that too low, or is that where you don't,
I think 25,000 is reasonable. It's a window between 25,000 and 75,000 that we're
Right.
talking about.
okay, thank you.
I can't imagine we would be purchasing $25,000 worth of paper,
Right,
or office supplies, I suppose. Because that's where I remember us talking about how it could get messy.
right.
Okay, so access to the contract. Provide counsel with a copy of the contract and or purchase agreements, comma, access to the contract or purchase agreement. Where would we get access to that? What does that mean exactly?
So every time we get contracts, we scan them into our service drive. It's on our server.
Okay.
So it could just be, because a lot of these contracts, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen these sewer contracts, but they're like thousands of pages. Or
Light reading?
Yeah. So, like, and a lot of it's just, you know, just standard documentation for every contract, but
Right.
like the bulk of the, like, the important part of it is usually at the front. But
Okay.
it's easier to share with people if it's just a digital, like, we could share the file
Sure.
with them versus the actual physical contract.
Well, and like for me, it seemed like some of these things that we're going for, these adjustments to 103 in general, it's been to make sure we are able to keep track of the finances, to make sure that we're staying on budget, right?
Right.
So, I mean, we wouldn't need that 100, 200, 300-page document to know what the final cost difference is, right?
Right.
Okay. And within 30 days, so then it would be kind of like the next meeting after that, okay. Wait, did we, I guess that was a question that I had. Like, how is it presented? I know I'd written a note, it said agreement prior to the first regular scheduled meeting, so that means it's not planned to be presented at the, I mean, because we use the consent calendar for items like that.
Wouldn't it be in petitions and communications?
Well, do you even want it there, or just some presentation that council has access to?
Okay, I don't know.
There are going to be a lot of mundane things in there.
Right.
I think it's something, maybe they can do a brief report that it's available, these are available on your site, and we could go there.
Okay.
We wouldn't have to,
I think of like Matt's sewer update,
yeah.
so kind of like notification, like that.
I updated that whole thing, like, to just clean it up, because I had a really hard time following along. There's a lot of
That's what I'm-
redundancies, yeah.
Yeah,
So I have like an updated version of it that I just didn't get to share yet,
okay,
but it's it makes more sense when I read my version of it, and I think it still incorporates everything that we were trying to put in there.
Okay. You share that with Alan so he can get it
I will,
updated for
yeah.
then? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's to confirm for A, under 103.05, that
Correct.
paragraph?
Yep.
Okay. So B, there's addition of in parentheses, which includes use of the consent agenda. And then C, so I guess is everyone okay with that? Yes. Sure, yeah.
Philip Leinbach, 209 West
I
Broadway.
should have been looking out too when I ask, is everyone okay?
On the 103.05 procedures and methods to be followed, I just have a suggestion and something to consider. I don't know if it's going to really be considered at
I'm
this
saying in
meeting.
general or in this certain section?
Well, it's very specific to this, to purchasing.
Right, this section.
Yes, this
Okay,
section.
Yeah. okay.
And in 103.05A, it talks about the city administrator and the directors and their $75,000 limit, and it says they can sign for pretty much everything. Looks like a lot of things in there. I would just like to suggest and give this to Jennifer to include maybe in the notes for this meeting. These are, this is a restrictions that Perrysburg, the city of Perrysburg has on their spending limits.
Oh, right.
And, it pretty much says that, they have a $50,000 limit that they list, but then they say, the transaction pursuant to which the city will spend not more than $50,000. This is what the administrator and director of finance and mayor, actually it said mayor and director of finance can sign, but then it lists, 4 different types of services that they say, if it's these kind of things, no problem, as long as it's under 50,000. So in terms of checks and balances, the extent that we have concerns about not having enough checks and balances is a $75,000, a blank check, something we want to have, as long as it's germane to some specific, guidelines, that could provide some checks and balances that we might want to consider.
Right, so you're saying like we might have agreed upon kind of like the $75,000 amount. I mean,
Yep.
We kind of base that on ORC right now, but including a list of stipulations that need required?
Yes, what it would cover. Say,
Okay.
you're free for up to $75,000 as long
Okay.
as it falls into these categories. And like
Okay.
one example is the periodic maintenance of equipment. Another one is the purchase of equipment that's contained in the individual's department or division's approved budget. So, I mean, list a few things. Again, I'm just bringing this up now. I'm not expecting people to consider it, but I'll include it in the notes from the meeting.
Okay, sure. And then you guys can take a look and make sure that the
Maybe it
list
can
of-
be included in a subsequent finance committee meeting to
Yeah.
discuss.
Or if we recommend, it could be included as a edit for our recommendation.
Oh,
which
could be,
we do
yeah.
all the time,
Yep.
too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would just indicate that would make it narrower than even the revised code provides. 'Cause they don't-
Okay.
The revised code, Ohio revised code doesn't have that type of limitation
Doesn't
on
have
the
any
spending
parameters.
limits.
That would be for finance committee to discuss. I think every municipality is maybe a little different.
I mean, we can talk about it now. What do people think about any sort of stipulations? I mean, Alan said it would narrow it more than what ORC is. So I
What would
can
be the
understand that.
ramifications, Alan, on narrowing it?
Well, if you fall outside that category, or you authorized it and it doesn't necessarily fit that category, it could become an audit issue.
Or I was going to say, that's what I was under. You want to just get council approval?
It's not always clear if it's going to fall within one of those categories or not.
Yeah, if something comes up and we didn't clarify it was for A, B, C, or D, then we've handcuffed the entire operation of getting the jobs done, of getting the procedure done. I think we have to rely on, count on, give the people credit who we've hired to make the right decision. Nobody's doing something
Well,
that's
right,
not.
but this verbiage is supposed to help direct them, kind of.
It's putting a lot of parameters and walls up where they can't get their job done if we don't have something specifically mentioned, like it has to be this or it has to be that.
But if it's
Yeah,
something
that's
that
what I
needs to
wanted
get done, then it creates a waiting for whatever period of time, and if you're going to make it go through 3 readings and, everything else will just delay
I would be against that.
everything.
I would be against that.
That's different than change order. Kind of, initial.
Okay, so Gabe said he's not for that. Gosh. Are we going to talk about it now?
I thought we
mean,
were just going to keep it up for discussion.
well, I'm not trying to prolong this to another finance meeting.
We just learned about it 2 seconds ago, really.
Well, right,
We
but
haven't looked into how Perrysburg is. We
Right.
said go contact the
so
administration over there,
often,
so I don't have any way to
Right.
go forward at this point.
so oftentimes when something like that happens, I mean, because we have adjustments, like Matt's going to include a cleaned up copy for this paragraph. You're not seeing it exactly. And it's happened many times at other meetings too. Not that we're even to that point yet, but we would recommend, I mean, so far, everyone seemed agreeable up to this point. We would recommend it to council, and then, Alan has made slight edits before, or changes, or posed questions that then council would get as a whole and could decide whether they want that removed. I mean, that's, I feel like we've done in the past.
I thought we were trying to get away from what we did in the past.
Well, that's awful broad. I'm trying to learn from the past is kind of what I'm basing this on. But we also, once again, a lot of people have really strong feelings on having 3 readings or not, or needing to get things done. And so, I mean, we could go to, okay, we're going to have 7 finance meetings for one thing because a new line wants to get considered and we don't want to discuss it as a whole. I mean, that's a question I'll put out there, I guess.
I think things are vented well enough before we go ahead and do a purchase, and our service departments are great about telling us what's going on while it's going on. I just don't think we need to keep narrowing their ability to do certain work and under very specific guidelines.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my
it's
feeling.
not narrow, it's narrowing what they don't have to take to council is really the only thing that's happening.
Well,
But once
I think
upon a time, it used to be everything was taken to council, right? I mean, pretty close. We've kind of made it a little bit more open now that up to a certain dollar amount, things don't have to be taken to council. Before, like, a ton of things were. So we are not making it to a point they can't do their job. We're just, I guess, maybe finding a compromise between taking everything to council and allowing everything that's under 75,000 to not be taken to council until a certain point. I mean, that's how I'm hearing it.
Well, I'm hearing that there's more specific things that has to meet a criteria. If it's not for this, or that.
Just to not have to be taken to council to get
Yeah,
approval
it's like,
ahead of
Okay,
time.
what if that happens? It's a common thing, or maybe not common, maybe uncommon, but it happens.
So the Perrysburg language says acquisition of services, commodities, or goods routinely used by the city. So Phil, you would say routinely, I mean, can you give examples? I mean, I have examples, but would you say routinely would be like cleaning services or engineering? Like a one-off, like consulting maybe would be not routine,
doesn't strike me as routine.
right?
Yeah, cleaning services, routinely, purchasing of, probably not a chemical item.
Phil, could you use the microphone, please? Just because we're
The
streaming.
Director of Finance probably can answer those better, but, and it's the kind of thing that, yes, that word routinely would probably require some sort of clarity, but I think that might be something that the council could discuss if they thought that that was a guideline that made sense. Because I think the idea there that I got from reading that ordinance is that you don't want the freedom to go off in left field, oops, I used my right hand, into the left field, and purchase something that just seems, now, why are we doing that? And it would just be, No, it's not that you can't do that. It's just that, okay, that's one of these things that's kind of it's a tripwire of sorts. Say, hey, hang on, that one doesn't fall within the 80-20 rule. Let's take a look at that and just bring that back to council. Then could be no problem. There's no 3 readings. If it's a contract, declare an emergency, approve the contract. Or if you can wait, if you need to wait, well, just wait. Let people comment on it. So to your point where it said routinely, again, maybe the law director at Perrysburg or their director of finance, could provide some guidelines that where they've, kind of bumped up against the guardrails, as it were. But I think the intent makes sense, that it's like, we're going to stay kind of here, there's a certain amount, rather than this being the latitude to spend,
Right,
it's like this.
right,
It's taking out some of the extremes.
right.
So I said, I just envision that it'll delay a lot of things that need to get done that are within that spending limit. It's not a huge amount, and like I said, the Ohio Revised Code doesn't place that kind of limit on things. If somebody authorizes a purchase of whatever that we don't even need,
Right.
probably not going to be working here anymore, be my guess.
That piece of paper you held up, Jennifer, is that the Perrysburg language?
Yeah, go ahead. Well,
Did we have a copy of this in here?
No,
there, go ahead. You can have
Phil just gave it to her.
Okay.
for consideration.
You can continue. I'll
Okay.
at my leisure.
So now we're on letter C. Still under 103.05, procedures and methods to be followed. So the addition here was or contracts. I'm trying to keep track with both. So city council shall approve contracts or agreements in excess of 75,000. So kind of repeating some of the same before. Is greater. That are to be
C-
awarded,
C is without formal advertising and bidding
right,
when it's determined to be an emergency, or for purchase of new used equipment at auctions, joint purchasing pursuant to agreements with other governmental units, whether state, local, or federal, sole source contracts, where council determines formal bidding is not practical or not in the best interest of the municipality. Any other circumstances provided by ordinance or resolution. It's really just some language changes.
so the additive, so it was the city administrator or the mayor, so now it's the city administrator, comma, the person designated by council when approving such contacts, or the mayor. Shall we authorize
Under
to sign?
Under E, you up to E?
No, I'm still on C.
See,
Let's see.
Okay, yep. I think that's it. Yeah, it's a different version. Yeah.
This morning.
What section are you on, Margo?
So I have it as under C. So city council shall approve and authorize contracts, leases, or agreements in excess of 75,000. Yeah, so that section. Is everyone? Are they, okay.
135.
So I have that we have added, so in Alan's version, I have emergency as determined was added by council or as set forth in chapter 107 of the Maumee Codified Ordinances, that was added. I guess kind of background why that was added.
just to clear
You
up the
just-
language.
You were just pointing out where it's
Clarify.
at, weren't you?
Okay.
You just pointed out where to find it.
And the same with the additional wish consent agenda. So then the other addition was the person designated by council when approving such contracts. Right?
Right.
And I eliminated the word any, or any emergency, along with that whole sentence.
Okay, that's what, and then that is where in it? There's any.
Before determined. So any emergency is determined by council. I just think it's too broad.
So contractor in term of any emergency.
Actually, I have the whole sentence that after whichever is greater, comma, I have that may be awarded without formal advertising and bidding, all the way through, as struck out.
And again, I didn't see that change till. today,
Right.
But
Yeah, so we're trying to look at, so your thoughts are,
That was on my original that I did a couple months ago, too.
yeah, so I had noted that when, Alan, you and I talked about this on the phone on Friday, where council determines that formal bidding process is not practical. That was something that was added back in between versions. So where council determines that formal competitive bidding is not practical or is not in the best interest of the municipality in any other circumstances as provided by ordinance or resolution. So essentially, proposing to remove that. Right?
Well, I had a
I'm
question.
not proposing to remove.
No, you're not proposing to remove
I
it.
had a question at the last meeting. I think this was the topic. And
Yeah, we hadn't gotten to this point yet.
we hadn't?
I don't think so. Maybe. Either way.
Well-
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, if it's not, if it doesn't, let me know, and I'll just pipe down on this end of it. But at our last finance meeting, it was mentioned that the air conditioning for the police department in the parking lot at Ruff Park wasn't done. I'm not sure of the verbiage, because we didn't get recorded. I wanted to go back and look at it, listen to it, and I couldn't. But it was mentioned that we didn't do a due diligence, and that, well, those words weren't used, but it wasn't done properly or the way it should have been done, and it was actually was, and I didn't know if that pertained to this.
So this was in reference to the parking lot. So there wasn't an emergency to do that parking lot.
What's that?
This wasn't, what you're referring to is my comment last time about the parking lot.
Right.
So that was deemed, we waived competitive bidding because it was an emergency, and there really was no emergency. It wasn't part of a project, it was standalone. There wasn't a weather issue, the plants weren't closing down, there was truly no emergency. It was done like August or September. And then the other item that I pointed out was the police building. And I did agree that that was an emergency. And on the first draft that Matt and I worked on this afternoon, I put in a narrative of an emergency related to city-owned facilities and the operations of that department. I had it worded a little bit better earlier today. And then Matt had a different suggestion, which is on the revision that's in front of you as well. Matt suggested, instead of that council have the ability to waive competitive bidding if it's unanimous support, rather than defining every emergency, or have it as a broad any emergency in here, because otherwise what's the point of any of this language if we can determine it at any time? Matt had some thoughts too about the rest of the language in there too.
Well, to speak to the 2 points you made, I did some research, and we had to get it was good to get the parking lot while the people were there. And we did have quotes taken, and the lowest quote was used for Ruff Park.
Yeah, it was originally, the
And-
council awarded
and
it to
was
Buck
also-
Brothers, but then Allied
Excuse
did
me.
it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And it was brought to council, as was the police
Yes,
issue with their air conditioning. It was done properly,
Mm-hmm.
deemed by the power given to council. They did things properly. I just wanted to make that clarification, because as it was reported or discussed, it sounded like it wasn't, and I just wanted to clarify that it was. Thank you. And you want to say?
The parking lot was awarded to Buck Brothers through council, but then they didn't end up doing it for whatever reason, I don't recall why. And Allied actually ended up doing it.
That's correct.
So, and then that wasn't competitive bidding? That was just awarded
No, it
after the
was-
fact?
There was bidding on it.
There was bidding?
the ordinance-
After Buck did not do it?
The competitive bidding was waived on it.
Right. We received a couple of quotes, and Allied was the lower cost.
Okay. Sure, you have to go to the microphone, please.
I'm Chelsea. Competitive bidding versus bidding. When we talk about that, because we say, oh, we did get bids, we did get quotes. Can we just sort of explain for everyone the difference between our competitive bidding procedures versus waiving competitive bidding and, I assume, reaching out to companies for quotes?
Yeah, so typically, before Ohio Revised Code increased the threshold, I think it was 2024, it was only a $50,000 threshold, and they increased it to $75,000. And they saw the need to do that because of the cost of everything going up. So typically, if we think a project will fall under that threshold, we'll just request quotes from, 2 or 3 different contractors, vendors, whatever that may be, and go that route if it falls underneath that threshold. But if it doesn't fall underneath that threshold, then we have to do the competitive bidding process.
So when we waive it, we are requesting quotes or bids from companies for over that $75,000 threshold.
Correct.
Correct.
No, when we
No.
waive it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I feel like you kind of explained it when you asked the question. It's like competitive bidding, we put it out there and people submit bids. We don't necessarily tell them to submit bids. Whereas the bidding, you get quotes, you go out and say, hey, so-and-so,
Right.
give me a quote for this, like I would do for a printer for a print job.
Right.
Right.
So that's what, because we were kind of getting a little bit back and forth. It sounds like, was Buck Brothers was competitive bidding?
No.
They were under.
It should have been, because the dollar amount, it should have been competitively bid.
Gotcha. And then
Because it was
council waived it.
120,000, if I remember right, it was with Allied, right?
Right. I don't remember what the costs were. I think the lower cost was like 109,000 or something along those lines.
Okay.
But
Because I
that
think
was
that-
brought to council
Right.
and it was waived.
Yeah, because I think it came in, they thought it was going to be lowered. Typically, the service department, between the two mats, you can calculate generally
Right.
what the cost is, should be or could be on those kind of projects.
So
So a
in a
lot of
normal-
times,
yeah.
getting quotes, if a quote's way out of line, and we don't have to accept it, obviously.
Right.
So for that one, we assumed it was going to be somewhere under 75,000. So we asked for some quotes when we realized it was actually 30-something% higher than that. Instead of going and doing competitive bidding for it, we just waived it.
Right, because of the time of the year, I think it was getting towards the end of the year as to when anybody would be able to do that work for that
Because it
parking
was-
lot.
Well, as I wasn't here then, guys, so I'm just asking some questions. I just wanted to understand where we're at with that and why we would waive it, even if we get the quotes and we realize that it is going to be a much more expensive item. What would be, I guess that's the question now, what is an emergency? When should we waive it? Okay, thanks. Thank you for clarifying.
But I think, like I said, this leaves it to council to make that determination, whether it is an emergency or not, which is, one of your roles to determine that. If you don't think it's an emergency, then you'd say, no, we're not waiving it.
And
It's
this,
still in there.
so this verbiage would still allow that.
No, I think this verbiage allows council to make that decision.
The one saying we're
To waive.
keeping the Ware Council.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, this allows council to,
Yeah, internally, we're not going to make that. But it would be brought before council to say, hey, this is what's going on.
Right.
Whether it's air conditioning issues, or I said the time of for the paving work to get done, those kind of things.
Yeah. All right.
What's next, Marco?
It is
E?
D. D, E,
Yeah, E. E
Sorry.
Change.
yeah, and which we talked about. So for E, does capital projects manager still need to be included?
Now we can delete that.
No, okay.
And Matt, what do you have to add, or maybe give us some information on the rest of the language in that, about the occurrences of the dollar value and such?
Change order provisions, I mean,
As far as the change order provisions?
Sorry.
Are you talking about the bottom, like, paragraph that was added? Like the,
Well, what was stricken out, and then what was left in or added?
Yeah, so I had already talked with Alan and Jennifer and the mayor prior to this, this first revision. And that's where we kind of came up with those numbers.
Okay, so that works for you? in the-
Yeah, I think so.
so I have a, sorry, go ahead.
so
Alan.
it's 100,000 per occurrence, what you're proposing, or?
Okay, so my question with that is, so why the 100,000 here instead of 75,000? Like, why is this amount different here? I mean, throughout, we've mentioned 75, and then this one jumps up to 100,000. So I guess I'm just wondering.
This is based on like the overall cost of the contract, and it's hard to kind of pick a low end and a high end of a contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think,
So you feel like you need something a little bit higher here because we could potentially, I mean, like the Uptown project was millions,
right.
right? Okay. So excess of,
But does this address like field order changes, that kind of thing, or whatever they call that, Matt?
Yes.
all right. And then, so my previous copies, and Alan, I talked to you about this on the phone Friday too, with some of the questions that I had. And then it looks like Jennifer's is kind of in conflict too, is, so you had mentioned F, keeping F. I think you said something about added back for like emergency measures when we talked. Can you clarify? So it was waiver of regulations when city council determined, kind of like all within it. So, you know, my thought was like wondering whether this needed to be updated because of this, because I know this is something we've had in the past. It was like something got updated, which then forced other things to be updated along with it. So like 21-2022, which they're all in the packets that you guys were sent. So, you know, under competitive bidding, it says advertisement on the city website for a period of 1 week or more if such additional time is deemed necessary by the city administrator. Well, that's something that we just talked about changing. So like 2 and 3 under B, I thought potentially letter E under 103.04 competitive bidding, that seemed like one that would need to be updated. So I guess I'm wondering why those were removed when it seems like it does seem like these ordinances would need updated because of these changes.
Well, the last time this ordinance was changed, I think, is what I reflected.
Which
From 20. Just as section 2, any ordinances, so it does say any ordinances, parts of ordinances, including ordinance 26, 2023, that are in conflict or amended or repealed in part to reflect the foregoing changes. And so at this point, the only thing we're amending is Chapter 103, which we did previously in 2023, so I don't see that we're amending any other ordinances as part of this. That's why I took out those other ones before when we amended the,
Okay, so you're saying ordinance 26-2023 was the last time this was, 103 was officially,
correct.
okay. So I guess my question is, okay, if those don't get added, that makes sense as to why those would not be included, because this was the last official change to 103.
What about 3921 related to sewer?
Well, yeah, so that was brought up when I was looking through 13-2022. It mentioned 39-2021, and I mean, I don't know when this gets talked about, where it gets talked about, but this section 1 of that, it seems like this wouldn't be necessary anymore once like the SSES report is approved and we have the consent decree on 39.
For the sewer emergency.
Yes.
I mean, I've talked to both Matts about that as to those requirements, but that's a separate ordinance, so we'll have to discuss
Okay.
how to deal with that.
So I guess what I'm saying is if these ordinances don't make sense to include in this section 2, it still seems that these ordinances need to be updated based upon these changes, right? Or, with 39-2021, that this would need to be updated once we get the SSES/consent decree, because we're going to do whatever that says. Not, essentially, this was giving permission to do all the things we felt needed to be done for the sewer emergency.
Right now, it only gives the city administrator that authority, so we don't have one right now, so it's
Well,
not
but
really
we're gonna get
urgency
one
to do
eventually.
39-2021.
Right.
But it's something you should discuss as to what should happen for those.
Right. So whether these make sense to include in 103 right now, I guess what I'm saying is I have seen the need for these to be updated based on the changes we're making on 103. So whether, I make a motion now or at the consent calendar or ask that these be added to a later council agenda, I guess is something we can talk about outside of this. Because I get what you're saying now with the 26-2023 for section 2, it doesn't make sense. But there definitely are things that have changed in these that it would seem like they would need updated. Well, I think, believe it or not, that's the end of it.
Of item 1?
Huh?
Of item 1?
No, item 1. But this took us a long time the last time. We got through it. Should all get an applause. What? Are you going to make it so this item's not finalized,
No.
Gabe, or are you going to make a motion?
No. Oh,
Is it finalized? Because I got 3 different versions
we're
here. I
gonna
want
have
to know
to-
what the final version
We're
is.
going to have to do a cleaned up version.
Yeah.
Before you.
Yeah, so we'll make a motion to recommend to council with the edits we discussed, because each time I said,
Does
that
everybody know
sound-
what all the edits are, or should we get you another version first?
I mean, I kept track of what all the
took
edits
notes.
were.
I took notes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think including them in I mean, obviously not for tonight, but the next October council meeting makes sense.
I did have a question or something, another topic.
On
I think we
103?
discussed it last time. It was about the pay period that we were talking about.
Oh,
Did
well,
we ever finish with that?
we have
Is
to,
it-
that's another item, Gabe. We have to
Other
finish
day?
chapter 103. Would you
Okay.
like to make a motion to recommend to council changes to 103 pending
As it-
Alan's?
yes. As edited and corrected, yes.
Jennifer, you're a Casey today?
Mr. Barrow?
Yes.
Yes.
Hold on, that needs seconded.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I will
I was letting her know that a motion had been made.
I was ready.
I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay. First, Mr. Barrow.
Yes.
Second, Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mrs. Puffenberger.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's a mouthful. You can just say Margot.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So the recommendation passes. Is that, I don't know if I'm
Yes.
supposed to say that or not. But,
I think you're good.
all right.
Okay.
So if I just want to address Gabe's
Yes.
question really quickly. So I do want to table it. It's addressed in the employee ordinances along with the raises. So I want to table it until we learn about our health insurance, essentially.
Well, weren't we supposed to wait until you guys discuss it with, or take like a poll from the people? See how they feel, which way they want to go?
Well, nobody wants to give up any money. So I want to,
But yes, they were going to give input on the two options,
Yeah.
is essentially what was
Yeah.
going to happen, yes.
yeah, but
You're
I
right,
do want
Josh.
to, I want to take into account health insurance costs too, because there's no cap on the premiums. And our claims have been higher this year because of our, we've hired quite a few people have had babies. So I want to wait until those numbers come in, which should be pretty shortly.
So when you have more information, it will be essentially put off to, we talked about discussing it more this meeting, so we put it on there just to essentially to give an update that it'll be pushed on to the next. So item 2 is done, check. So 1 and 2. So item 3 is residential refuse discussion. And so I need some clarification, Alan, on that. So the RFP that I saw, I have to get to that section now. Does anyone else want to talk about trash while I get reorganized?
Well, basically, we sent out an RFP through Lucas County Solid Waste Management, which solicits bids. So they were going to solicit bids based on what we requested of them. We did say based on last year's agreement, but we may not have worded what last year, or not last year's, but it's that almost 10 years ago agreement. So we should get some bids or some quotes from them through the various providers. I think they said Archbold Refuse actually indicated that they wanted to be included in that, so they may make a proposal through Lucas County Solid Waste Management. So Lucas County Solid Waste Management handled the contract provisions the last time, so we're just trying to figure out the cost of going through them, or separately franchising itself. We could put out our own bids.
Okay, so is that what you meant by, as a part of the RFP? So they would send out something?
They sent out.
They already sent out
requested
something?
quotes.
Okay.
I believe so, right?
And then we could potentially send out something. So I guess what my confusion is with that is looking at what they had sent out, well, 2 things. So I guess we were supposed to be giving input on this RFP that they had. And that's when I noted, going through it, that, things are very different than any services that I've had since being here in 2015. In that, the existing service, it talks about biweekly recycling, and it talks about 1 free quarterly bulk pickup, which, those are not our as-is, which
Right.
that's what you were saying.
We sent it through internally, and so that didn't get caught, but they did
Okay.
get a copy of our prior contract. So they should base it on our prior contract.
Okay.
For that one.
Because these
Right.
most definitely seem to be like what I used to have when I lived in South Toledo. So kind of like a Toledo's variation. So I guess my question with that, though, is if we put out, say we just want to get quotes on exactly the service we had last year.
Well,
How-
Not exactly.
Well, the terms that they should be following, not based on,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Margot asked for it, we got it.
I can follow up further with Solid Waste Management and see what, they can get that clarified for us. I think.
Yeah, because I just worry that, okay, so say they put out exactly what we had, we put that out to others. So I have a few concerns. So that's one worry. If they aren't putting out exactly what we had the last time and we ask others to provide a cost for that, it's not apples to apples because this is quite different. But then my other thought and/or concern or point I wanted to, I guess, talk about is,
Are we still are we moving off of the refuse?
no, we're still
Okay,
here.
because I had a question.
Yes, okay. Do you
You
want to
can
go
go
now?
ahead. No, we're
I finished?
No, after you finish that, I have my,
Okay. So, you have a question on something after trash?
no,
Okay.
During trash.
Oh, during trash, okay. So we talked about potentially doing a survey to get input, because, so I brought this up back in summer, when we first started talking about trash, when we said that we were no longer going to be a part of that agreement. So we said, okay, we're signing off after the 10 years is up. And then the whole point was to give us some time to get some input from residents, to possibly get some other options. So like, I remember, for example, when I first moved here, I think we got the really big toters, and it began an issue with a lot of seniors. We got a lot of complaints from seniors because the toters were so large and they wanted something smaller. So like, I know in past conversations that I've had with people about this trash topic, you know, I talked about, well, can we get some sort of options? Could we look at other options, you know, other than what we have? Like what would happen if, say you had an option for a smaller toter size? You know, say you had an option for, I don't know what all the variations would be, but, you know, I also wanted to kind of at this point, you know, look at those other options, get some kind of input from residents, but then also, you know, look at trash recycling as a whole. So, you know, one of the items we put into trash is food waste. So that brings up the topic of discussion for compost. Like our overall amount we spend on trash, at least at one point, was around $900,000 a year. So, okay, you know, talking to, if you would go off the basis of Bowling Green is doing, it has compost offered. They take all the compost, just like it used to be recycling back in the day, that you take your compost to a said location. Toledo's doing the same thing. So their locations happen to be at the metro parks. So the metro parks essentially provide an area of space for a concrete pad to get put up, fencing, Go Zero to offer toters that residents can then bring their compost and dump in there. Like based on what I've been discussing with them, kind of to see like what the price, you know, options would be. Like for the compost service itself for the year it's around $12,500, like 12 something. The concrete pad to get poured, a couple $1,000, fencing, same. So it would be upfront cost for that. And then for example, BG, when they kind of tried to get the thing going, they bought, say 150 buckets with lids to be able to give out to citizens to encourage them to use the service. That's not something you have to do, but it's an option that could potentially be an upfront cost. But then, you know, after that, it's 12 something, 12,500, 12,800 per year to add that. One of the benefits that I've seen from living in other municipalities not having compost and living, you know, Maumee now and having compost in my backyard compost is, you know, your trash doesn't stink and your trash doesn't get near as full. When your trash doesn't stink, you don't have pests getting in your garbage bins. So, I mean, there definitely are benefits to separating the food. We get a lot of complaints about rats in neighborhoods. Usually they're going for food. So if you're able to separate that and put it in a different area, I feel like that could help bring those instances down. When we've had conversations about compost in general, Toledo has not talked about, they said that they have not had any sort of like pest issues. There was no like glaring comments about we've had a real issue with pests. It was all very positive kind of comments on it. So I guess that's another option like I'd like to throw out there. Like we talked about having this big conversation around trash and really looking into it. And then, you know, another option too is like the residents the city is paying for trash right now currently. When we canceled out this contract, or we said we weren't going to renew, or, you know, when it was up in 2026, we talked about, you know, it was put out there that the residents would then be responsible for this, you know, payment of this. But, you know, there is always the opportunity to, you know, baby step it. So let's say, and we can talk about how it's funded too. So say when I was in Toledo, I think trash was put on our water bill. so that the city could still, own how the payment is received. So, and I don't know, we could see what the cost benefits are to that, because I know the options would be like whoever we would go with billing each resident separately, or else that entity billing the city directly, and then the city collecting in some way, shape, or form. So like, for example, on the water bill, and then, paying the entity that's providing the service. So I feel like there's a lot of things that we could talk about and should talk about and get some input from residents concerning. And I want to throw out there whether, does it make sense that, say, instead of going straight from city pays it all, then residents pay it off? Like, what if there's a period where it's like, a couple years, it's going to be a percentage. The city pays so much percent, the residents pay so, a percentage of whatever that, number ends up being, and that's kind of what we do for a couple years. It's a couple things I wanted to propose, because, we talked about really having a good conversation about trash, so I want to make sure that we are.
Sounds like you are.
No, conversation requires other people speaking, so now it's your turn.
Thank you.
Are we still on trash? Because I know he had a question originally.
Yes, trash.
Yeah,
We're-
Alan, but how many companies are there out to bid for this type of work?
I'm not sure of, Republic, obviously, Clum Brothers,
Yeah, Rumpke.
Archbold Refuse, yeah, Waste Management, I think, got bought out, didn't they?
Yeah,
Well, they
it's
still
not a
around.
lot,
I
but,
heard Stevens, someone said, so they're,
oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to have more than one or two people.
yeah. Which, Republic, they're all over the place. I remember seeing them on the East Coast. But,
Wow.
yeah, so I guess, so when would next steps happen? Like, when would we get something back from the county? When would we put something out there? How long of a time would we have for decisions to be made? Like, how can we make sure these, talks keep happening? Like, I guess, for instance, like, I'm very interested in the survey. I think it would help kind of drive like what we should put in an RFP to get kind of options, but maybe it's going to be a matter of whatever those companies are that are available, they only offer certain things. I don't know. So I guess I'm asking how and when should we make that decision? Josh, Gabe, Alan, Jennifer, Matt,
I know.
all of you.
In the initial RFP, because we used Toledo or Lucas County's template, and we did have it added, like there was, 4 alternatives that they had kind of put together. We had it added that they provide costing, what that cost would be if the city paid one bill or if residents received individual bills, because I was interested in seeing that difference, because it seems like it'd be more beneficial to the resident if there's one bill to us. I hadn't considered your idea about phasing that in to residents too. That's something to consider. I had considered putting it on the utility bill because we're already issuing the bill anyhow. But until we see those numbers, I don't know. I think we'll have to have further conversation then.
Okay, so just, I guess my goal is to make sure it keeps getting put out there so we have the time for the conversations. Phil, did you want to say something? Versus, I don't want it to become an emergency thing we're approving because time has run out. So that's why I brought it up in the summer and why I am now in October.
I just wanted to agree with you. I think it warrants some discussion, involvement with the citizens, what they think. Some people may even want to opt out. If the solution were, it's going to be direct pay, just like your utility bills, like for natural gas or something like that, and electric, where the third party is billing us. Some people may say, I'm going to opt out. I'll take care of my own trash. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do, but
Right.
Springfield Township, it's all private.
Yeah, well, and
But the discussion, I think, really needs to be accelerated.
Yeah.
So we get that input.
Well, and for the survey, I see no harm in getting input, putting it out there, getting some input as we're having these conversations. So then when we are ready to talk about it again, we already have the input. So is this something that finance, needs to say, yes, please put this out there? Is this something that Public Information Committee needs to say, hey, put this out there.
Maybe conjunction, both of that, both of them.
I mean, I don't want to get tripped up by kind of like these certain steps that have to be followed. It's like, we want some sort of survey. If we can all agree that we want some sort of survey
I think
to go out to the
John out
residents.
there is looking to be able to do the trash stuff, right?
Okay. So John, public information meeting for sewers, or not sewer, sorry, trash, oh geez. Trash survey. Okay. Well, we have a nice one to kind of go off and take a look at and, finalize from there. So we could have a meeting, kind of get something finalized. That would work out well. Okay.
Isaiah has a question.
Yes.
All right, so when is the contract actually up and the service would actually stop? And when this new contract for whatever company ends up going forward, when does that timeline look?
I was told June 2026 was when it was
Right, June of
done.
next year.
Yeah.
We have 6 months to, yeah, so sooner than later, I would propose that, like this next month or two, get something out. Otherwise, you're going to be just,
Yeah, I mean, that's why I keep bringing it up. It's like, we're going to get down to the
so if you
wire.
don't renew the contract, do they still continue services without having another contract? Or it just,
No.
it just stops, right?
Yeah, with Republic, it would end, right?
Yeah, and then if we change services with another company, they take all their totes back.
No, we own the totes.
You own the totes, but it has
Yeah.
Republic on it, doesn't it? Or it just says it's Maumee?
I think it's just
Says
city.
Maumee. Okay, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, we own the totes.
Isn't that funny? We see those things every day for years.
I know. I knew we owned them, but I don't remember whether it says Republic on them or not.
City of Maumee,
Yeah, it says City of Maumee, I know, yeah. Well, so I guess what I'm requesting is, I want to make sure this, like, keeps getting talked about. So, getting a timeline of when theirs is going out, making sure the right items are on their RFP, and then, when we get an RFP out, I mean, how much time does it take to get a response? Like,
Well,
to
we
be,
can recommend that to council tonight.
what's that?
We can, to start on this next polling.
Okay. So you mean tonight for public information? I'll do that. Yeah. Do we want to make any recommendation? I mean, it would be, I feel like it's not recommending any sort of ordinance. It's just
Oh,
saying,
right.
we want to,
Start the actions sooner than later, like
yes.
quickly as we can get it put together.
And including some residential input,
Yeah.
including some other options. So I guess, I mean, if it makes.
Actually,
is
you
it-
may want to ask those other companies before we give people choices, see if those choices are actually a thing.
Well, I thought about that though, and it's like, what if some companies have them and other companies don't? Like, does it become a matter of like seeing if it's something that's wanted?
Yeah, see if there's enough maybe desire in it,
Yeah,
then,
from residents,
okay.
and then,
okay, this company best suits us there.
yeah, I think it could be our criteria of who we pick based on if they have some of the things that,
Yeah, do you have all the services that are asked for by a good number of people?
yes, yeah. Yes,
Yeah, so as of right now, I do believe that, I think Republic said that they're almost losing money with that $900,000 a year.
Don't think they are.
It's going to go up exponentially, probably $200,000-$300,000.
Right.
And that all should be included. Obviously, when the discussion goes for the flyer to go out to citizens, that it will be going, I'm not sure we're going to find the money, if it still be funded by the city, or if we're going to do a 20% of, or however it's going to work out financially. But that also needs to be included, a partial payment, because right now we have citizens that are on fixed incomes that can't afford another bill or another refuse, just something that's because they're going to be pretty priced out. So we had to find a way to take care of those people.
well, that was my thought on if it became some sort of percentage thing, like if we own the bill and then put it on
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
that, like, I mean, say one of the options, and this is just made up, is the city continues paying the 900,000, which I know we were wanting to get away from that. That's why this got brought up in the first place. But it was also because we knew the services was going to go up. We're going to go up.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a first step is the city, the first year, pays what we've been paying, and then that extra percentage is what gets put out to the residents. I mean, there's all sorts of options to go through.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, you have to think about it coinciding with the sewer. That's all, the next 3 years going up another, what, $15, $20 per, per thousand?
Right.
So that, everyone's bill is going to be going up even more with these two in hand. So that's something that we have to consider.
Right. Where it gets difficult is, I mean, the city's costs are all going up too.
Yeah.
So it has to be part of the overall budget discussion.
But there's.
Which is why this got brought up. When trash got brought up, I think it was not long after St. Luke's closed. So it was losing, a big income tax, which was, a lot of money that comes in to fund.
Yeah,
some
and I
of this
know it was
stuff.
prior to this, the last 4 years, but there's the money that we've been spending all over the place that we could have been figuring out, I think ahead of time, which we weren't. Now it's all here in our face. So it's just something, yeah. There's still more work that's to be done, like, to figure out this part itself, so. Because, there's money being thrown out, for certain things right now that they're all getting approved that we can figure out for trash, or do we really need to be spending money here?
Well, that's with the budgeting
Yeah.
process.
Well, yeah,
That's
I
when
know.
that
Yeah.
happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, deciding what to spend the money on the next year. Yeah. Thank you. So I guess my question is, there's really no formal motion for this, right? Because there's really no recommendation. We could just
We'll bring
say,
it up in committee of the whole.
yeah, we talked about it in finance.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, so did you ask your questions for trash? Is
Oh, yeah, I
that-
just was
that was
curious,
it?
like how many
Okay.
companies are actually
Yeah.
out there that can bid it.
Okay. So then the last item was the sewer funding update. So just kind of update from you, Jennifer, is that?
Yeah, that's it. I have it spelled out on the agenda, but just that we renominated for 12 projects, and we're pursuing that funding again. We're still weighing options with bond funding versus the WPCLF funding. We're taking advantage of the OPWC funding and grant 0% loan and grant funding as well, when that's available too. So that's it.
Hey, thanks for the update. Well, so that is the last item on our agenda.
I'll make a
So-
motion to adjourn.
I will second
Okay.
that motion.
All right. Would you call the roll, please, Jennifer?
Sorry. Okay. Okay, what time we're adjourning? Okay. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Puffenberger?
Yes,
Mr. Barrow?
Yes,
thank you.
I'll see you in 50 minutes. Oh, no,
45.
40 minutes.
Thanks.